He walks around like nothing happened. He laughs, he posts, he carries himself like he's completely unbothered. If you looked at him from the outside, you'd think he never cared, like losing you was just another passing moment in his life. But here's the truth. His ego won't let him show you the pain, but deep inside, it's eating him alive. This is what happens when a man refuses to be vulnerable, when he prioritizes his pride over his emotions. He will never let the world see that he's breaking. He will never admit that the nights feel longer now, that his mind keeps replaying memories he thought he could forget. No, instead, he puts on the act. He tells himself and everyone around him that he's fine, that this was his decision, or that he doesn't care what happens anymore. But do you know what's happening when he's alone? When the distractions fade and there's no one left to impress? That's when the truth starts creeping in. That's when the silence becomes deafening. That's when he starts to realize that the confidence he's trying to project is just a mask, one that's slipping more and more each day. In the beginning, he might have convinced himself that he was making the right choice. Maybe he told himself he'd be back, or that he had other options. Maybe he even believed he'd be better off without you. But ego's a dangerous thing. It blinds a man from reality, makes him ignore what his heart is screaming at him. It makes him push away the very thing he actually wants, just because he doesn't want to look weak. And so he plays the game. He won't reach out. He won't show any signs of struggle. He'll act as if losing you was just another event in his life, nothing worth dwelling on. But the truth is that he's feeling the loss more than he ever expected. He starts to notice things. How your presence made everything feel more meaningful. How your absence creates a void he can't quite fill. The moments you share, the little things he used to take for granted, suddenly become clear in ways they never did before. He catches himself thinking about you when he least expects it. A song plays, a scent in the air reminds him of you. He hears something that you used to say all the time, and it hits him harder than he ever imagined. But instead of reaching out, he lets his ego hold him back. He convinces himself that if he just waits long enough, the feelings will go away. That if he keeps pretending, the pain will disappear. But emotions don't work like that. The more he fights it, the more it lingers. The more he tries to suppress it, the heavier it becomes. And that's when the cracks start to show. At first, it's subtle. Maybe he starts posting more, trying too hard to show the world that he's living his best life. Maybe he surrounds himself with people just to avoid being alone. Maybe he talks a little louder, laughs a little harder, acts like he's got it all figured out. But inside, he knows he's just running. He knows he's trying to outrun a feeling that's only growing stronger. And the worst part, he can't even talk about it. He won't admit it to his friends because that would mean admitting he was wrong. He won't tell anyone that he misses you because that would mean admitting he made a mistake. So he suffers in silence, trapped in his own pride, unable to do the one thing that might actually bring him relief, facing the truth. This is the cycle he's stuck in. He can't let you see the pain, but he can't escape it either. And every day that passes, every moment that he pretends, it only eats away at him more. He thought moving on would be easy. He believed he could replace you, that he could find someone new and feel the same excitement, the same connection. In his mind, you were just another chapter, and he convinced himself that flipping the page would be effortless. But reality doesn't work like that. He's trying to fill a void, but no matter how much he distracts himself, no one feels the same. At first, he dives into the distractions, parties, new people, maybe even someone to keep him occupied. He surrounds himself with noise because silence reminds him too much of what he lost. He posts pictures. He acts like he's thriving, but deep inside, he knows something is missing. He thought someone else could replace what you brought into his life, but every new person just highlights what's gone. Conversations feel empty. The chemistry isn't the same. The way you used to understand him without words, the inside jokes, the energy that made everything feel effortless, it's not there. He keeps searching, but with each new person, he feels the gap growing wider. The spark he's looking for, it's not something he can force. Maybe he gets into a rebound, thinking it will numb the feelings, thinking if he just pours his attention into someone else, he'll forget. But rebounds don't heal wounds, they just cover them up temporarily. And the worst part, he starts comparing. He didn't expect it, but it happens. Little things remind him of you. The way you used to laugh, the way you used to challenge him, the way you carried yourself with confidence. He realizes that what he had with you wasn't just something casual, it was rare. And now he sees the difference. He notices the depth that's missing, the comfort that isn't there, the way conversations feel forced instead of natural. He keeps looking, keeps trying to convince himself that moving on is easy. But every attempt just proves one thing: he can't replace you. Over time, the distractions lose their appeal. The thrill of meeting new people wears off. The excitement he thought he'd feel from being free fades. And suddenly, he's left with the one thing he was trying to avoid all along: his own thoughts. That's when the regret starts creeping in, when he starts to wonder if he made the wrong choice, if he let go of something he should have held on to. And now the tables have turned. Because while he was out there trying to replace you, you were growing, you were healing. You weren't looking for distractions, you were focused on becoming the best version of yourself. And that's what makes it even harder for him. Because the person he's missing, the person he's starting to regret losing, you're no longer the same. You've elevated, while he's still stuck trying to chase something that doesn't exist. The realization hits him hardest when he sees you thriving, when he notices that you moved on, not by finding someone new, but by becoming someone he can no longer reach. And that's when he finally understands no one else could ever be you. So he won't admit it, but he's watching. He acts like he doesn't care, like he's moved on without a second thought, but deep down, he's keeping tabs on you. Maybe he's too proud to check directly, or maybe doesn't want to give himself away, but in one way or another, he's looking. Whether it's through social media, mutual friends, or just scrolling in silence, he wants to know, are you thinking about him too? Even if he tells himself he doesn't care, the curiosity eats at him. He wonders if you're out enjoying your life, if you're seeing someone new, if you've already replaced him the way he tried to replace you. Every time you post, every time he hears your name, there's a moment where his heart stops, just for a second. He looks at your pictures a little too long, overanalyzes your captions, wonders if your words are about him. But here's the thing: he won't break the silence. He won't be the first to reach out, even though he wants to. His ego won't allow it. He's waiting, hoping that maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one to make the first move. He convinces himself that if you don't reach out, it means you've forgotten him. And that thought terrifies him. So instead, he lingers in the background. He might not like your posts, but he sees them. He might not comment, but he's paying attention. He might pretend to be uninterested, but if he hears about you from a mutual friend, he's listening a little too closely. And the worst part for him, every time you seem happier, stronger, and more confident without him, it hits him where it hurts the most. Because in his mind, he expected you to be the one who would miss him. He thought you would struggle, that you would come back, that you would be the one regretting the breakup. But now he sees the opposite. He sees you glowing, growing, becoming someone even better than before. And that realization crushes him. That's why he stays silent. Because reaching out now would mean admitting he was wrong. It would mean accepting that he underestimated you, that he thought you needed him more than he needed you. But now he's realizing the truth. He was the one who needed you all along. And so he watches, waits, and hopes. But the more time passes, the more he sees that you're not coming back. And that's when it really starts to hit him. He's the one who lost something irreplaceable. He told himself he wouldn't miss you. He convinced himself that life would be better, easier without you around. At first, maybe he even felt relief, as if he had made the right choice by walking away or letting things fall apart. But time has a way of revealing the truth. And now that the dust has settled, the weight of his decision is starting to crush him. He goes through his days trying to act like nothing has changed. He surrounds himself with people, fills his schedule, keeps himself distracted. But distractions only work for so long. There comes a moment when he's alone, when there's no noise, no conversations, nothing to keep his mind occupied, and that's when reality sets in. That's when he starts to feel it, the emptiness, the regret, the undeniable realization that you weren't just another person in his life, you were different. At first, he tries to fight it. He tells himself he made the right choice, that he'll find someone else, that he just needs more time to move on. But then, the little reminders start hitting him from every direction. A song that plays at the wrong time, a memory that surfaces out of nowhere, a place you both used to go. He tells himself it's just a passing thought, but it keeps happening over and over again. He didn't expect to feel this way. He thought moving on would be easy, but now the realization is settling in. He had something real, something rare, and he let it slip through his fingers. And the worst part, there's nothing he can do about it now. He starts wondering what you're doing. If you ever think about him the way he thinks about you, he wonders if you're struggling like he is, if you still check his posts, if you still remember the little things he used to do. But deep down, he knows the truth. He knows that while he's stuck in this cycle of regret, you're out there, moving forward, becoming stronger, building a life without him. That's when the pain truly sets in, because now he realizes that he didn't just lose someone, he lost the one person who actually cared. The one person who saw him for who he really was, who supported him, who brought out the best in him. And now it's too late. He can't turn back time. He can't undo the choices he made. So he suffers in silence. He pretends he's fine, keeps up the act, hoping that no one notices the internal battle he's fighting. But every day that passes, the truth becomes harder to ignore. He's hurting more than he ever thought he would. And the person he wants the most is the one person he can no longer have. He never thought it would hit him this hard. He believed he could move on without a second thought, that time would erase the memories, that the emotions would fade just like everything else in his life. But the truth is, the deeper the connection, the harder it is to forget. And now, no matter how much he tries to push it away, he feels it, the weight of losing you. At first, he acted like nothing changed. He told himself he was fine, that life was moving forward just as it should. He surrounded himself with people, drowned himself in distractions, thinking that if he kept busy enough, the thoughts of you wouldn't creep in. But the human mind doesn't work like that. You don't just erase someone who left an impact. You don't forget someone who became a part of you. And now, the silence is his worst enemy. Because in those quiet moments when no one else is around, that's when your presence feels the strongest. That's when he remembers the way you used to laugh, the way you used to challenge him, the way you brought something into his life that no one else could. He catches himself thinking about you at random times, when he's driving, when he hears a song that reminds him of you, when he walks past a place you used to go together. He thought he could replace you. Maybe he even tried. But no matter who he meets, no matter how many people cross his path, there's always something missing. It's not about finding someone new. It's about realizing that what he had with you wasn't something he could just replicate. It wasn't just chemistry. It was something deeper. And now he feels the loss of it every single day. The hardest part for him isn't just missing you, it's realizing that you're moving on. He scrolls through your posts, sees you glowing, sees you becoming stronger, and that's when it truly stings. Because while he was out there trying to prove he didn't care, you were actually healing. While he was pretending to be unaffected, you were growing into someone even better than before. And now he knows that the person he once had in his life is no longer the same person he lost. That's the pain he wasn't ready for, the pain of knowing that even if he wanted to, he couldn't just walk back into your life because the version of you he took for granted, that version doesn't exist anymore. You've outgrown him, and that realization is the one thing he never prepared himself for. He thought time would heal everything. He believed that the longer he stayed away, the less it would hurt. That eventually he'd stop thinking about you, stop feeling the pull of your presence, stop wondering what could have been. But the truth is, time didn't erase anything. It only made it clearer. It made him realize what he lost, made him see what he had taken for granted, and now he's left to deal with the weight of that regret. At first, he was confident. He told himself this was for the best, that he'd be fine, that life moves on. Maybe he even convinced himself that he was better off without you. He distracted himself with work, with people, with nights out, doing everything he could to prove to himself that he didn't need you. But no matter how many distractions he surrounded himself with, there was always a moment when the noise faded and he was left alone with his thoughts. And in those moments, your absence became impossible to ignore. He started noticing the small things, the way certain songs seemed to follow him wherever he went, the way his mind would drift to you when he least expected it, The way memories of you played like a film in his head. The moments he thought he had buried started resurfacing. Not just the good times, but the real moments. The way you supported him. The way you understood him in ways no one else could. The way you made his world feel just a little bit brighter. And then came the dreams, the ones where you were still there, where everything felt real again, where he could hear your voice, see your smile, feel the warmth of your presence. But when he woke up, reality hit him like a brick wall. You weren't there. And that emptiness, that hollow space you once filled, was a reminder that no matter how much he wished things were different, he couldn't change the past. But the real pain, the one that cut the deepest, was realizing that while he was stuck in this cycle of regret, you had moved forward. He saw it in the way you carried yourself, in the way you seemed stronger, in the way you weren't looking back. And that's when it truly sank in. He wasn't just missing you, he was losing you all over again. Not because of time, not because of distance, but because you had finally let go. And now all he could do was live with the truth that he had the chance to keep you, and he let it slip away.